Hey everyone, this is David with my recent interview with Deborah Glatz in the New York area. Just to give a little bit of an introduction about myself, my name is David. I work with Coldwell Banker in the greater Boston area. And people from the greater Boston area always say they're from Boston just because the area is kind of spread out. Just to give you a quick overview, some of the sales in the area, if you're in downtown Boston, the average price for like a condo is $1.4 million, which can be pricey. Some of the low is 700, actually low is 425, high is 700. Whereas if you go out to the greater Boston area, which is where I'm based, that's about 10 to 15 miles outside the city, we're seeing an average price of about 800. And those are single family homes, because the further you get away from the city, the more we're talking about single families as opposed to condos, that kind of thing. One of the big draws to the area are our industries. We have high tech, we have higher education, pharmaceuticals, finance. So there's a lot of kind of in and out of people relocating to and from the city. And so I help people manage those move-ins and move-outs. So Deborah, I'd love to hear more about you.
Okay, well, I'm local to the area. I've lived in the 3 counties around me many years. I actually grew up in Yorktown, which is in northern Westchester. We're about an hour outside of New York City.
Okay.
And that's the market that I'm working in right now.
Mm-hmm.
I work with a lot of transplants coming out of New York City, a lot of millennials, all kinds of folks, buyers, people that are downsizing, people that are upsizing. There's a lot more that they can purchase as far as their purchase power up here. It helps because it just gives everyone a little bit more space, and they're still able to use Metro North to get into the city. We have 3 lines: the Hudson, the New Haven, and then also there's actually New Haven and also the Harlem line. So the New Haven really runs through Connecticut, but we have the Harlem and the Hudson line that people can choose from if they want to take Metro North. Our homes vary in price, but right now in northern Westchester, I would say that the average price point is right around $400,000 to $500,000. Again, you're going to have quite a blend of homes, some that have been renovated, some that have not, some that need renovation. But the communities they're very friendly to new buyers. We do see some downsizing of people, homeowners that have been in the house for a long time, and they're ready to transition to maybe a 55 plus community. Okay. So we have a few of those here as well. So life is easier when it comes to condominiums. Someone else is doing the landscaping and maintaining. Okay. So that's basically what I have, to say around this area. I love working with first-time home buyers. I love working with homeowners that haven't sold a house in many years. We take it step by step. I'm very patient. Any question's a good question, even if I've answered it before, because we can't remember everything.
That's good. Awesome. Okay, so have you found there's a big difference in the people who are selling for a while and the first-time home buyers? What is kind of some of the challenges that people face? One is a first-time home buyer, another is a seller in that area.
As a first-time home buyer, there's a lot more steps these days. Okay. And you need to be a little bit more thorough. We need to explain more to them. Like, for instance, once you're pre-approved for mortgage, once you are going to contract to purchase, now that buyer needs to satisfy whatever the mortgage company needs in order to get their mortgage. We always try to remind them, do not go out and make a big purchase. Do not buy a new car. Do not spend $8,000 on furniture, because it does impact your credit score. And the banks now are checking credit scores right up to the day of closing. And that can knock someone out if you have a very large purchase. If it changes your credit score, you no longer may qualify for that particular interest rate on that particular loan. Also, too, what we find with homeowners that have been in a home a long time, they're not really aware of what an inspector would find once they come into a house. So it's our job or my job to educate them and say, there are certain things in your home that may need to be addressed prior to putting it on the market. And those are all discussions that we have, and we figure out what's the easiest and most practical way of addressing those issues.
Perfect. So it sounds like getting people prepared, lined up, helping to jump over some of the hurdles and all of that. Now, in the Boston area, we tend to be heavily focused on attorneys in the process. We kind of have a two-step process where you make an offer and then you have something followed up, which is a purchase and sale document, which an attorney has to draft. Is that similar in New York, or is there a different process?
Yes, in the downstate area, we do use attorneys. Our process is a little different than upstate New York. In upstate New York, the agents do write the contracts.
Okay.
Down here, we have an accepted offer. The buyer will do an inspection. If there's anything that comes up, we discuss it. And then the attorneys exchange information, and they get the memo of agreement, which breaks everything down, the seller, the buyer, all of that. And the attorneys write up the contracts.
Okay, that's very good to know. It sounds very similar to Boston. I didn't know that there are regional differences in New York State.
Yes.
Then with that. So where about is that cutoff point then would you estimate that to be?
I think probably up in Ulster County, a little further north, closer to Albany.
Okay.
The agents up there do actually write those contracts.
Okay.
Dutchess County, Putnam County, Westchester County, Orange, Rockland, these counties, we do use the attorneys.
Okay, good to know in case people are moving into the area, because sometimes people get surprised when they say, why do I need an attorney? It's like, no one's suing you. It's just that there's a role of someone involved who is writing up a contract for you. So that's good to know. It's a two-step process. So would you say then you get mainly the people who work in your area are commuting into New York, or is there industry in the area that kind of keeps folks closer to your area?
Most of the homeowners or the new buyers are commuting into Manhattan and New York City, either driving. We do have, again, a couple of highways that are a straight run, and then Metro North. Northern Westchester is a little bit more residential and a little bit more rural. There's not a lot of industry up here.
Okay. So people rely on going into the city and all that for their work.
Or even lower Westchester County. White Plains is our main city in Westchester County, and there is a lot of corporate, a lot of offices. There's some industry down there. There are some people that commute into White Plains.
Okay, well that's good. That gives me a sense then of the area. I've had relatives down in there, but we always go like for Thanksgiving, and then I disappear, and I'm like, what's going on in New York down there? But they all love it. They love New York. So so this is great. Did you have any questions for me while we're on the call about the Boston area?
Well, you were saying that mostly in the city it's condominiums. Do they have co-ops as well, or is it mostly condominiums?
That is a good question. We tend to not have any co-ops really in the area. And I know I've heard in New York, in the city, the meeting with the co-op board can actually be quite stressful.
Yes.
So what is something like that like, if that's something you've had to deal with and prep people for?
It can be a little stressful. I think the hardest part of it is that at one time, and this has just changed recently, the board could turn someone down and they didn't actually have to give them a reason. Okay. So the hard part about that with the co-op is you've already started your mortgage process. You're in contract. You're, putting everything together to move forward to purchase this new home. And you may even tell your landlord that you're moving. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, if the board turns you down, it's kind of like, what do you do? So, and they don't have to give a reason. Now there's new parameters with the state that they do have to give you reasons why, if that's the case, why they did turn you down. Whether it's they ask for specific parameters as far as your finances. You may need to have an income of a certain level and a reserve in the bank even after you purchase. Okay. if the guidelines are too tight, or the, not the guidelines so much as, a buyer's requirements, what they have in reserves, if it's too tight, maybe that's a reason why they have turned them down. They want to make sure that they can afford it once they move in. You can't empty out every nickel that you have to purchase your co-op. And then if an emergency comes up, what would happen at that point? Something, yeah.
It sounds kind of like it's almost more financial decisions that co-ops are looking at in some ways, which is good, because if it's for any reason at all, well, then all kinds of problems pop up in those situations, which may
Right.
not be fair, really, to some people.
Exactly.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Well, thank you for that insight. So this has been great talking to you. If anybody wants to reach you, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Well, there's two ways. They can either call me at 845-206-1215. They can also text me at that number, or they can go and they can email me at deborah.glatz@cbmoves.com.
That's terrific. Again, thank you so much for your time. Have a great day.
You too, David. Thank you.